The Price Predictor Index is one of our most popular products. It's a report that we publish every quarter. And in this report, which is, we think, unique in the landscape of research reports for residential real estate around Australia, because we analyse sales volumes, sales activity. We do that for every town, suburb and location in Australia. It's a huge task. We do it every quarter. And what we're looking for is patterns of growth and also markets that perhaps may be in decline, and also markets that are showing very, very consistent levels of sales activity quarter after quarter, because we think this informs future trends with property prices. A location that's got a steadily rising pattern of activity as the market rises is going to be producing price growth, all other things being equal. And conversely, a location where the level of sales activity is falling off steadily is likely to see an end to price growth, or in some cases, prices may actually decline. So the new winter edition of the Price Predictor Index has just been published, and it reveals some really interesting trends across Australia. It confirms that the upcycles in the two biggest cities, Sydney and Melbourne, have truly passed their peak. And we're likely to see some price correction in some of those areas of the two biggest cities. But conversely, we're seeing rising patterns in some of the smaller capital cities. And in particular, we're seeing very, very strong rising markets in many regional areas, particularly, most notably, in New South Wales and Victoria, but also in Tasmania and in Queensland. So as the markets wind down in Sydney and Melbourne, the regional areas of Victoria and New South Wales, in many cases, are rising very strongly. We're seeing this in the last 12 months, some very strong price growth in some of the regional markets of those two states, notably in Newcastle and the Central Coast in New South Wales, as two examples, and also in places such as the suburbs of Geelong, just outside Melbourne, and also in some of the towns to the southeast of Melbourne, like Pakenham and Officer and Warragul, where prices have risen 20% or more in the last 12 months. We expect to see more of this because there is a strong pattern of rising activity in many of the regional markets, particularly those that are close to the capital cities, and that's true in Victoria and New South Wales, but also strongly true in Tasmania and some of the markets in Queensland. We're also seeing signs of recovery in some of those resources industry affected locations in states such as Western Australia, Queensland and South Australia. Amongst the capital cities, Hobart is undoubtedly the leader on price growth at the moment, followed by Canberra. There are signs in our latest survey for the winter edition of the Price Predictor Index that Hobart may be approaching its peak, if not past it. But we're seeing uplift in Canberra. We're seeing very, very solid rising markets across Adelaide, and we expect better price growth there. And we're seeing continuing signs of recovery in the Perth market, which has been on a trend very different to Sydney and Melbourne over the last 4 to 5 years, with prices and rents falling. But it's very clear that that market has bottomed out. It's now moving into a recovery mode. So all that and more in the new winter edition of the Price Predictor Index, which we've published this week. It's a very detailed, very useful report, one that takes a perspective on markets that you don't get anywhere else, because we think that trends in sales volumes are a precursor to what will happen with prices. So if you know what's going on in terms of sales activity in individual markets, you can have a clue as to the future trends with prices. So make sure you read your copy of the winter edition of the Price Predictor Index, published by hotspotting.com.au. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from Hotspotting signing off. We'll talk to you again soon.